With us to unpack the report is one of the authors, Dr. Wesley Wark, Senior Fellow at the Center for International Governance and Innovation. Doctor, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thanks for having me on your program.
So let's start with what led you and your colleagues at CIGI to undertake this report in the first place.
Well, there was a couple of things, really. One was just a reflection on the fact that the last time that Canada produced a national security strategy, what was called the National Security Policy Statement, was way back in 2004. And that policy, as interesting as it was in its time, is completely outdated and irrelevant to today's circumstances. So that was part of it. You know, frankly, the other big driver was the experience of COVID-19 and a realization that I think was slow to come to the Canadian government that pandemics do in fact pose national security challenges, and our national security and intelligence community wasn't ready to assist the government in understanding the threat posed by COVID-19 when it emerged in China and thinking about a globalized response. So, you know, those were the two considerations. Really, the feeling was that it was time for us to appreciate that the national security threat environment has been radically transformed. There are all kinds of new challenges to Canadian national security that we need to think about. We need a different kind of dialogue with Canadians about them, we thought, and we believed that there really was a window of opportunity here. As Winston Churchill says, we quote in the report, you know, a crisis is too good a thing to waste. Well, we're in a terrible crisis. We don't want to waste this moment by forgetting what we should be learning about the changing nature of national security challenges for Canada.
All right, sir. Well, it's interesting that your report mentions that defining the issue of national security is not easy in itself. So what type of definition do you use in your report?
Well, we wanted to have, you know, we were looking for a golden mean, to be honest, to somewhere between as much precision as possible and something that would be all-encompassing. We, you know, we recognize that national security means many things to many people, and it's a portmanteau phrase, as is often described. But the essence of it for us is really an understanding of how national security impacts on a society. And the fact that, you know, front and center for national security is not just the protection of a government or the defense of borders, it's really a protection of Canadians. So built into our definition of national security is really a defense of democracy as we understand it, and democratic institutions and practices. So that is something we wanted to sort of put the forefront, because I think many people really misunderstand. You know, it's not surprising because we don't talk about it enough, but don't really understand what national security is all about. It's really about protecting all of us.
All right, Doctor, just a little over a minute and a half left here, but we mentioned the 5 global threats you identified in this report. Can you go over them and unpack them for our viewers?
Well, what we wanted to call attention to was the fact that the national security threat environment has changed. We are facing a set of security challenges, the likes of which we've never seen before. And many of these challenges don't come at us from traditional threat actors. Some of them do, but nation states are not our only concern. So we identified 5 main threats, including pandemics, current ones and future ones, climate change security impacts, which is going to be a big preoccupation, I think, on the national security front in the years to come. We paid attention to technological change and its implications. We wanted to look at economic security, which is really going to transform the way in which I think governments need to fashion economic policy. And you know, our old notion, essentially, of laissez-faire economies is not going to work in the current global economy. And then finally, we looked at geopolitical competition. Interestingly, back in 2004, when the last national security strategy was produced, there was no mention of geopolitical competition because it wasn't a thing then. Nowadays, Canada is facing a very fractured international system with a rising China, an uncertain US ally, all kinds of changes around the world. And so, you know, that's part of the reimagining that has to take place.
All right, Dr. Wark, thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily News.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.